of the 16th of September. As usual, well, first of all, I would like to welcome Councillor Rattigan to the committee. I will go through the names as usual. I am aware there are some apologies, but that will come up in that item agenda. So if you're here, please say so. Councillor Orban.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Bayford.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Coleman-Cook.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Curry.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Dennis. Councillor Duckworth. Councillor Garner.
I'm here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Hart. Councillor Keane. Councillor Keane. Councillor Rattigan.
Here, Chair.
Councillor Scott. Councillor Taylor. Councillor Wright.
Here, Chairman.
And of course, myself. Thank you, members.
I am here. It's Councillor Duckworth.
Thank you, Ruth. Thank you.
In time.
No, thank you. Right, a few points as always that I have to read out to you. If you have any technical difficulties during the meeting, then please contact Democratic Services. The officer on call who will attempt to assist you today is Charlotte. Her number is 577193. Her number will be included at the top of the chat box. I would ask participants, when you are not speaking, please mute your microphone. This minimises background noise and will help everyone who is listening to the proceedings. Microphones must only be on for a participant who has been granted permission to speak. To gain permission, again, put your name and just put your name there, and I will come to you when the other person has finished speaking. Would everybody present please ensure that their mobile phones are turned to silent and that they're not used to make or receive phone calls whilst this meeting is in progress. Please also refrain from checking emails or conducting other business, and ensure that you are in a quiet room, free from distractions for the duration of the meeting. Please note that this meeting is being live streamed for members of the public, and following the meeting, the recording will be available on the Council's YouTube channel. Members requesting to speak under procedure 20.1. We have Councillor Bob Bayford has requested to speak under agenda item 4B. Are there any other members who aren't on the committee wishing to speak on any item? If they are out there, could they please say so? Okay, thank you, members. Public speaking. The following applications have been reserved for public speaking. Members, please note the following items on the agenda, and those items are agenda item 4B and agenda item 4D. Agenda item 1, apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Dennis, Hart, Scott, Taylor, for whom Councillor Rozeski is present. Are there any other apologies, please?
Yes, Chair. Apologies from Councillor Keane.
Thank you. Are there any declarations of interest? Agenda item 2.
Yes, please, Chair. I would like to declare an interest on item 4B, 158 Percy Avenue, please.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. On that, obviously it's difficult to ask you to go out of the chamber in the way we are at the moment, but I think it's fair, and I'm sure I will be corrected if you obviously mute, which you normally do.
Yes.
And not listen to the debate.
And not participate.
And not participate at all. Thank you.
Of course. Yes. Thank you.
Agenda item 3, minutes of the Planning Committee on the 19th of August. Do members agree that the minutes of the Planning Committee held on the 19th of August 2020 be approved and signed by myself. Could I have a proposer, please?
I'll propose that, Chair. Councillor Alban.
Thank you, Councillor. Can I have a seconder, please?
I'll second that, Chair.
Councillor Coleman-Cook, thank you. Do you all agree?
Agreed, Chairman.
Agreed.
Thank you, members.
Agreed.
Agenda item 4, schedule of planning applications and public speaking. Once again, we're in that position regarding site visits, which I do know is being looked into, but at this stage, we cannot commit to site visits if there are any. Agenda item 4B, which is the planning application for approval of 158 Percy Avenue, Broadstairs. I'm going to welcome Suki to read out a statement from Mr. Pacey, who is raising points of concern. If I could hand over to you, Suki, please.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, this is from Josephine and Michael Pacey. And they say, Sentosa, our property in 2nd Avenue, is the dwelling directly behind the proposed new build in the back garden of 158 Percy Avenue. We urge you to consider the numerous objections received from the local community and also provide a summary of our own objections below. The majority of the bungalow, including the main front door, faces straight onto 2nd Avenue and not Percy Avenue. This will change the openness and sense of spaciousness of both our outlook and garden, but also that of 2nd Avenue as a whole. The application describes the plot as disused land to the south, when it is actually the unkempt garden of the current house. 158 Percy Avenue is a rental property, has been so for several years, and as such, very little gardening is carried out. The proposed build is right against the build line of 2nd Avenue. All other properties are recessed back from the road. This is not in keeping with the road and therefore harms the character and amenity of the local area. The application states, the property situated to east of site, Sentosa, has no windows at 2nd floor along this elevation and no windows at ground or 2nd floor along elevation adjacent to proposed site of 158A. This is incorrect. Our kitchen window, kitchen door, dining room and lounge French doors are all adjacent to the proposed site, as well as the upstairs windows. The height of the proposed property is too high. It includes a balcony and bifold doors in the top bedroom. The application details a full-size balcony overlooking our property and garden, which is in keeping with the existing arrangement at number 158 Percy Avenue, which has a full-width balcony at the rear looking over garden. 158 Avenue does not have a full-width balcony. There is an overhang over the ground rear bay windows. There are no railings on this overhang, and this has been the case for as long as we remember. We have lived at Sentosa for over 30 years. This is intrusive and an invasion of our privacy. In addition, the application states this bedroom will be a guest bedroom, suggesting only occasional use. This assurance is meaningless and cannot be supported. There is a major traffic problem in Percy Avenue. This is a year-round problem. This problem has severely worsened during the fines now imposed for parking along Kingsgate and Fitzroy Avenue. We cannot have a further increase of vehicles in the area. The application states that the access to 158 Percy Avenue, including refuge storage and collection, is presently through 2nd Avenue and assumes that this should be the case for the proposed 158A new build. This is untrue. Existing driveways are in Percy Avenue and refuge is collected from Percy Avenue. We feel this is trying to build a case that the property is already in 2nd Avenue, using facilities of 2nd Avenue. This is not the case. There is an established large hedgerow in 2nd Avenue on the site of the proposed build, and this is a magnet for local bird life. This adds to the character of Kingsgate, and this type of hedgerow is rapidly disappearing. This will be threatened by the proposal. The application offers no economic benefit to anyone other than the applicant themselves. There is no evidence that there is any need for any more housing in this already overdeveloped street, and it is important that the character of the area is maintained. It is a proposal for squeezing a property into a cramped space, resulting in a negative impact on the neighbourhood. We would request that the Planning Committee decline this application.
Thank you, Suki. Speaking as ward councillor, Councillor Bob Bayford.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee, for hearing me today. I should first make it clear that I live nearby to this proposed development. I live in 2nd Avenue, and as Mr. and Mrs. Pacey's letter said, this development is 2nd Avenue, not Percy Avenue. But I'm not really directly affected by this particular house. But I think if granted, it could set a damaging precedent which could affect everybody in Kingsgate. I will start off by endorsing everything that Mr. and Mrs. Pacey have said, and I won't repeat the detail. I hope that members have noted that, because I think it was a very well put case. I would like to acknowledge that the planning officers, did ask for a reduction in the bulk of this development, which has been actually enacted and has reduced the impact somewhat. But I think the very fact that it's been asked for does reflect that there is a sensitivity about this particular development. And when we're talking about, well, the size or whatever, then it's a question of how big. You know, the original one was too big. The planning officer is suggesting something smaller, and they've come in with that. But I don't know if that's right. I don't think that it's an appropriate development at all, as far as I'm concerned. I have a particular concern that the house is being squeezed in, and that the ratio of garden area to the size of the property is significantly lower than is usual for the area. This is contrary to the character of the area, where significant open space between properties is the norm. And indeed, the officer report actually says that in granting this, it's subject to a spacious setting being maintained. Members, that spacious setting amounts to 1.7 metres between the existing house and the proposed new house. In real money, that's just over 5 foot. I don't know in what world that is spacious. It isn't in mine. The building line in 2nd Avenue, has already been mentioned, has been completely ignored. So the property will stand out very prominently, and it will very, very much affect the street scene. I think it's also regrettable that local habitat is going to be lost here. Now, as a point has already been made, that it's a well-used oasis for local wildlife, and the loss of it, I think, is really to be deplored. And I think it's very, again, I don't understand how a payment of £424 by the applicant will somehow mitigate against this loss. I don't see that. If approved, this application will set a bad precedent, and every tiny piece of land in Kingsgate will become an object of desire for developers. And I don't think that that's good. So I would ask members to refuse this application. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. I now will ask the planning officer, which I believe is Emma this afternoon, to give her report. Do we have Emma? I'm very quiet on me.
Sorry, Chairman. Yes.
Thank you, Emma. I thought you were on holiday still there for a moment.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, great. So this is the application site outlined in red here. So this is number 158 Percy Avenue. Percy Avenue is along here, and this is 2nd Avenue. The property would be located in this area here on the corner of the site, with an entrance fronting on to 2nd Avenue. Just looking at this location plan, you can see the separation distances between existing properties. So you can see on the other side of the road, there's a variety of semi-detached properties. On this side of the road, it's more detached properties, and you can see the gaps that exist between them. So whilst they are quite spacious plots, it is actually quite tight in between the properties. This is an aerial photo of the site. So the application site is this area here. So it's currently a garden area associated with number 158 Percy Avenue. The side extension of number 158 Percy Avenue would be demolished. So the application site is this garden area, but also includes this area here where the existing extension is. This is a closer view of this area. So this is the property behind. So this is Sentosa, who have objected. So you can see this is again the location of the proposed dwelling. And then again, another more detailed shots showing the fact that this is an existing garden area. So again, this is the extension here that would be removed in order to replace it with a dwelling. And then this is just a view, a 3D view from looking from Percy Avenue towards the site. So in terms of building lines, you can see that it is quite set back from 2nd Avenue to the property. But when you get to Sentosa, there's a garage development to the front of the property. So when looking at the building line, we are looking at the front building line of the garage area. So this is then a photo looking towards the property. So then this is number 158 Percy Avenue. This is the extension area, the 2-story extension that's to be demolished. This is again looking from Percy Avenue towards the site, and you can see 2nd Avenue on the right-hand side of the screen. And then another view of that again. So you can see that there is hedgerow around the site. There's no reason why they couldn't remove that at any point. So although I appreciate there's been some mention about ecology, as long as the removal of the hedge isn't carried out during nesting season, there wouldn't be anything that we could do about that. And then this is looking down towards 2nd Avenue, and now this is down 2nd Avenue looking back towards the application site. So this is 158 on the right here, and this is the application site here. And now you can see this is the neighbouring property, Sentosa, on the right here, and their garage projection. And then this is back in Percy Avenue looking at the properties to the right-hand side. So again, you can see a number of bungalow properties, detached units. And then looking off to the left-hand side of the application site, you can see a mainly 2-story building, some up to 3-story, all detached. And then this is again looking towards the application site, which is this area here. So this is the existing block plan showing the existing property. So again, this area here is to be removed. And this is showing the existing elevations of the property. So again, on the right-hand side here, this 2-story element is to be demolished. This is now the proposed site plan showing the dwelling. So it's a 2-bed dwelling. It's 2 stories, but the first floor is within the roof space. So it's of a chalet bungalow design. Amendments have taken place during the application to reduce the depth and height and the location of it to bring it further away from 2nd Avenue. So it is significantly smaller than the original submission. And you can see in terms of looking at the building line, it follows the front building line of 158. So in Percy Avenue, it's following that front building line. And then into 2nd Avenue, you can see that the front, the side elevation or front really, because that's the front door there, is set back beyond the front elevation of the garage of the neighbouring property. So again, just looking again at that space here, this is the front elevation of the proposed dwelling. So again, you can see the dotted orange line is the original submission. So you can see how much it's reduced. So in height, the dormer's reduced on the side and it's reduced in width to set it back away from the boundary in order to maintain that building line with the neighbouring garage to the rear. And then this is the rear elevation. So originally there was a balcony proposed. That's now been removed. So there's no balcony as part of this. So this is the neighbouring property, or 158 even. So that's not part of this application. This is the proposal with no balcony at the rear, just one single window. And then this is the side elevation that looks onto 2nd Avenue. So this is the front door and porch extension. And again, you can see that the roof's been barn hipped in order to reduce the roof bulk. And again, you can see here the reduction in the depth of the building. So all of this has been removed in order to make it a much smaller, more modest development that then maintains its spacious setting. And then this is the other side elevation, the left-hand side, with a small dormer set back from the front. This is the floor plan. So at ground floor level, there's a bedroom at the front with a study area and a large lounge, a kitchen area at the back. And then within the roof space, there's just 2 single bedroom. So again, you can see the single window at the rear that would face the neighbour. The left-hand side window within the dormer would be obscure glaze, serving a bathroom. And this is a street elevation plan. So you can see on the left-hand side, all properties are two-storey. This now reduces in height quite significantly, given the fact that there's a bungalow on the right-hand side and chalet-style bungalows in 2nd Avenue. So it's in keeping with the scale of development in the same area. And the setback, as mentioned before, is maintained from 2nd Avenue and from both Percy Avenue as well. So in terms of looking at the impact on the neighbouring property, as mentioned, the balcony that was in this location here has now been removed. Also, the reduction in depth of this building means that the rear elevation is now no further forward towards the neighbour than the existing rear elevation of number 158. So the impact from overlooking is no greater than exists from number 158. There's a single bedroom window within the rear elevation here, which is looking towards the garage area of the neighbouring property. So their main windows are in this location here. So it's not considered that whilst there would be one additional upper level window facing towards the property, it's not considered that the impact would be any worse than exists from the existing property. And the location of it means that it wouldn't actually be looking towards the most private amenity space of the property or where the main windows are located. So again, this is just showing that area here. So this is the garage area here, and that's where the window would be in this location towards the neighbour. So as mentioned, it's in keeping with the building line. So whilst it does set back here, it does follow the garage building line of this location and is set back from the properties here. So it is considered that whilst it's quite a small site, given the amendments, it's considered that the building will sit comfortably within the site and maintain that spacious setting without any significant impact to the neighbours or to the surrounding character of the area. In terms of highways, you can see there's 2 parking spaces provided to the front of the property. 2 parking spaces are maintained for number 158 as well, so there's no highway concerns with that space. And you can see that the property is maintaining quite a large garden area. And again, a garden area is maintained for number 158. So on balance, it's considered that it is acceptable and that members approve the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Emma. I move that the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Members, over to you. I haven't got any names on my screen at present. Is anybody wishing to speak?
Yeah, Chairman, come on, let's have a debate on this.
Yeah.
Not just going to sit here and say nothing.
No.
Chairman, I think I'm slightly concerned that why would you want to demolish a two-storey part of your house to fit another house in? It's obviously that just seems a bit strange to me. Whilst I do think it sits somewhat nicely, to be quite honest, within this particular garden area of the existing house. As I've said, I just find it somewhat strange that you'd knock a two-story part of your house off to build another house. So I'm just weighing this up, really, Chairman. But that's the only thing I can think of to say at the present. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Orban. Now, I'm not sure if I have something wrong on my screen. Are there any other members? And if you can indicate, there's no names coming up on my screen. Does any other members wish to speak?
Yes, please.
So go on.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, please, Chair. When looking at the plan, the site plan, it looks quite nice. But when you see the actual photograph of the area, it looks like it's jammed in. And it looks to me distinctly like overdevelopment. And I do take on board what Councillor Orban said. Why would you knock down just to build again? It just doesn't seem right to me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Duckworth.
Yes, having looked at the officer's presentation, I think it looks as though a lot of care has been taken to make it a much more modest development and much more in keeping with the surrounding area. So I'm inclined to be in favour of this. Thank you.
Thank you. And my screen is working. Who has ever done something at the other end? Thank you. Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I'm inclined to agree with Councillor Coleman Cook on this. Does seem rather cramped. I don't understand the only reason why you would do this really is to create a new house and obviously make some money out of it. But it does seem rather cramped, and we sort of glossed over the loss of that quite large hedge that is obviously alive with wildlife during nesting season and during the winter as well. Birds in and out of there, and it's all very well saying, well, we'll get rid of it during the winter so as it won't affect nesting birds. But in years to come, that will never be replaced. So I would quite be interested to hear a little bit about any proposals they might have for a landscaping plan once they've completed this build, how they're going to replace that hedge if they are at all. Thank you.
Can you come back at all, Emma?
Well, there is a condition requiring details of landscaping to be submitted as a condition. So we would be considering that at a later stage about what landscaping goes back in. I mean, it could be that the landscaping condition is even adapted if members feel strongly about it to include the need to actually have hedging as part of the landscaping plan, because at the moment it's quite an open landscaping condition that just requires them to submit details. But if we feel strongly that there's an element of landscaping that should be included, it could actually be stated that it should show that as part of the landscaping plan. But other than that, unfortunately, we can't protect the hedgerow that exists there at the moment. It's not a planning requirement to actually require removal of the hedge. They don't need permission to require the removal of the hedge. So all we usually would put on is an informative saying that they should carry out the works during the nesting season, and other than that, that could be removed. But yes, we could look at ways in which they could get new hedge planting in as part of the landscaping scheme.
Thank you, Emma. Councillor Rattigan, your maiden speech on planning.
Thank you very much, Chair. The development seems very cramped, and my other worry is obviously in that area it's a very nice area, and the properties can fetch good money. And will this development then leave the door open for other developers to look at buying single properties there and trying to cram more houses in there to get the sea views and to get houses in that desired area?
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Again, I can't see any other members wishing to speak. I can see you, not all of you, but if there are no other members wishing to speak, I'm going to put this to the vote. If I may, please correct me. So I'm sure my screen is working correctly now, but we will go to the vote. And as usual, I'm going to call your name out, members' names out, and a case of if you're for, against, or abstaining. So I will start with Councillor Coleman Cook.
Thank you, Chair. I'm against.
Councillor Orban.
For overdevelopment, against.
Councillor Curry.
Against.
Councillor Duckworth. Councillor Duckworth. For or against?
For, sorry.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you. Councillor Garner?
Against.
Councillor Rattigan?
Against.
Councillor Rozeski?
Abstain.
Councillor Wright. Councillor Wright.
Yeah, against.
And myself, I'm against. Right, that has fallen. Now, obviously, we've got to decide the way forward. Now, I'm coming to the Planning Applications Manager, Mr. Livingston, as always. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. So members have raised concerns about a combination of elements of overdevelopment, cramped, concern about the spacing between this property. Obviously, we're on a corner location, which obviously is something that look at the various images. So it seems, in terms of summing up what members' particular concerns are, it seems that it's in relation to the location and I would argue probably the design of the dwelling. The very fact that there is a dwelling in this space would appear unduly cramped and incongruous, unrelated to the character and form of development in the area, which results in harm to the character and appearance of the area, contrary to QDO2 of the Thanet local plan. So I think that is the sort of thing that I believe would sort of encompass the concerns of members, and it's whether or not anyone wishes to move a motion on those grounds that I've just outlined. And I can outline them again if a member wishes.
Sorry, Chairman, I'm happy to move that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Alban. I need a seconder.
I'll second that, Chair. Sorry.
A few there. Would you just like to read that out again, Ian? So then I'll put that to the vote.
Yes, thank you. So, just to clarify one point, I believe, and I may just have to bring in Emma, if that's okay. We have a unilateral undertaking, I believe, for this site. Is that right, Emma?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a signed.
Yeah, that's fine. I just needed to just ascertain in terms of whether or not there were any grounds of refusal that we would be required to put on to accord with the habitat regs. Okay, so just to outline the motion before members, it's for a reason of refusal that the proposed development, by virtue of its location and design, would appear unduly cramped and incongruous on the corner of Percy Avenue and 2nd Avenue, unrelated to the character and form of development in the locality, resulting in harm to the character and appearance of the area, not outweighed by the public benefits, because obviously that's what members have considered, the benefits of providing one new dwelling, contrary to Thanet local plan policy QDO2 and paragraph 127 of the MPPF.
Thank you, Ian. Well, we have a proposer and a seconder. I'll come back to members. Do you agree with that motion?
Well, we need to vote on it, Chair. Go through it per individual. Sorry.
Okay, right. Thank you, Ian. So I'll go through your names again. If you agree or disagree or are going to abstain, once again, your names, please, so it can be noted. Councillor Coleman Cook.
Agreed.
Councillor Alban.
Yeah, for.
Councillor Curry.
Agreed.
Councillor Duckworth.
Against.
Councillor Garner.
Yeah, I'm for.
Thank you. Councillor Rattigan.
For.
Councillor Rozeski.
Abstain.
Councillor Wright.
For.
And myself, I'm for. So that is carried. Thank you, Ian. And thank you, members. Right, moving on to, you don't need any more information from us, Ian, on that. No, I didn't think we did. Planning application for approval, which is for 1 Fair Street, Broadstairs. I'm going to ask Suki once again to read out a couple of letters received. The first one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Suki, we can do it the other way around, but for Mr. Dadds.
That's correct, Chair. It's a representation in favour of the development. So I'll read it out.
Thank you.
Firstly, as officers have correctly advised in their report, there is no conflict with local plan policy, the development consisting of new housing in a sustainable location and within the settlement boundaries. In terms of siting and height, the dwelling on plot B will be the same distance from number 42 as 42 is from 40. Also, the ridge line of the dwellings will be only 0.5 of a metre above that of the neighbouring property. As such, the dwelling on plot B will not have an overbearing impact on number 42 or cause any loss of light, especially since it will be sited to the north of 42. Similarly, as the only windows in the side of 42 serve a toilet and bathroom, along with the side kitchen door, none of which are habitable rooms, there will be no loss of privacy or outlook. The density of this proposal will accord with the density of other properties in the vicinity, such as the dwellings on the diagonally opposite corner of Fair Street and properties in Royal Close and Leet Close. However, at just under 4 dwellings per hectare, this density can hardly be regarded as high, let alone out of keeping with the area. Therefore, there can be no argument that more open space is needed on the development. With regard to design, the locality is made up of a variety of dwelling types and materials, including bungalows, chalet bungalows and houses, finished in both tiles and slates to their roofs. This proposal, which seeks to address the concerns raised at the time of the previous submission back in 2009, is therefore in keeping with the character and appearance of the area. In respect of highways, both dwellings would be provided with sufficient off-street parking and turning facilities, together with satisfactory access with adequate pedestrian visibility displays and sight lines. On the issue of drainage, neither Southern Water nor the Environment Agency have objected to the application. In any event, pipes in close proximity to boundaries will be addressed through the regime of the Statutory Party Wall Act. Finally, it is disappointing to note that the Town Council unanimously raised to make no comment upon the proposed development within their original submissions, but in response to the amended plans, which were aimed at improving the development to accord with officer recommendations, they raised an objection. Nevertheless, the concerns they raised have been addressed within the officer's report and through this presentation. As the proposal will represent an enhancement of the existing street scene, the officer's report is commended to members, who are invited to approve the application in accordance with the recommendation. And then I have a statement from Frank Curtis against the proposal. Do you want me to read that out there?
Yes, please. Thank you.
He says, Para 10 ground says, to safeguard the residential amenities currently enjoyed by the occupiers of nearby residential properties, ... no windows shall be inserted in the rear elevation. Windows to the rear are constrained to prevent overview of 1 Fair Street, but bedroom 2 of plot B has a steepling window with an unrestricted view of 42 Wilkes Road, which includes those rooms where privacy is most valued. This overlooking will be suffocating to those in 42 Wilkes Road, which is closer than 1 Fair Street, but does not appear to be safeguarded in accordance with Para 10. Character and appearance. Paragraph 127 of the NPPF, Policy QD02 and Policy BSP9 states that proposals that conserve and enhance the local character and sense of identity will be supported. I suggest to the committee that these proposals do not comply with these policies. The 4th paragraph refers to 3 of 6 immediate neighbours. However, number 3 Fair Street, directly opposite west, 39 Wilkes Road, southwest, and 42 Wilkes Road, south, are all conventional bungalows constructed level with or above the highway level. Therefore, it would appear that the proposed dwellings would be out of keeping with these closer properties. Transportation. The 2009 KCC highways raised, in 2009, KCC highways raised no objection to the location of accesses to the site. Since 2009, the amount and speed of traffic has increased dramatically, particularly at school rush hour and with regard to van movements. The junctions of Wilkes Road and Fair Street is widely regarded as a hazardous one and is recognised to be an accident black spot. It is most surprising to those of us familiar with this site that the proposed development is not considered to result in a significant increase in street parking or harm to highway safety. I would suggest that the reverse is true. I believe that residents will be unable to turn their vehicles around on site and will eschew reversing out, and that will inevitably lead to increased street parking and restricted junction visibility. My objections of 2nd October 2019 and the comments of other objectors remain valid. Mr. Livingstone's comments on an earlier application are still relevant and pertinent. This proposal for 2 large buildings of unusual appearance on a single plot is excessive.
Thank you very much, Suki. I will now ask the planning officer, which I believe is Ian on this occasion, to outline the report, please.
Thank you, Chair. Hopefully everyone can see my screen. So the application is for the erection of 2 two-storey 3-bed dwellings on the garden of number 1 Fair Street. So the site is outlined in red. It's undeveloped garden land at the back of number 1. The site fronts Wilkes Road. Fair Street runs around as indicated by the mouse and then goes off down to the west. Then to look at the aerial image of the site. So this is the site in question. And then if we look at the an isometric aerial image, the site is in the center of the image as indicated here. So this is the rear of number 1. Number 42 Wilkes Road, which is the property that we've heard about, is to the right hand side of the site from the image that we've got here. I want to show members this image to show the character of the area, to be able to see the relationship between this site and the rest of Wilkes Road and this area to the right-hand side of the photograph, which is predominantly showing semi-detached and detached bungalows in the vicinity of the site, whereas on the north side of Fair Street here, as well as in the enclave in the left-hand side of the image and also back towards Vale Road, predominantly you're looking at 2-storey properties, and there's also a development around the back of large 2-storey properties around to the what's the east of the site as well. So there is a mix of character in terms of the heights of dwellings in the vicinity of this site. So looking directly at the site, number 42 is on the right-hand side of the screen. You've got a bank of trees which is separated from this development site by an alleyway which is in the background of this image. And then looking at the site front on, you can see the pitch of the 2-storey element of number 1 Fair Street in this area here. And then you can also see the gable of number 42 Wilkes Road here. So there's this boundary treatment of 2 meters runs around and down the side boundary between the plot here and number 42. And then this is looking back down Wilkes Road to show again number 42 here, and then the bungalows down the rest of the road. And then looking back down towards the site is in this area here. So you can see that one of the enclaves of 2-storey properties that's been built in the background, moving in then to Fair Street. So this is sort of directly opposite the site, where you've got the 2-storey properties that ran along the north of Fair Street there, as well as a bungalow on the corner. And you can also see the palette of materials. So you've got bungalows that are predominantly brick, and then you've got other properties that are also rendered. You've got roof tiles of different colors and textures as well. And then this is a view just looking from the opposite direction. So this is north to south. So this is the junction of Fair Street and Wilkes Road. And then you've got a very prominent tree that's on the corner of the site, which is proposed for retention as part of this scheme. Here is the alleyway that runs down the side of the site itself. And this is another view of the alleyway and the tree in question, of the landscaping at the front of the site to be retained. You can just see the back of number 1 Fair Street here. And this is the alleyway. I say the separation with the landscaped area that's still going to be present on the right hand side. And then this is just a front view of number 1 Fair Street. As mentioned, the proposal is for 2 dwellings. So these 2 dwellings are within the urban confines. So the main consideration on the use of this garden land for development of new dwellings is the consideration of the impact on the character and appearance of the area, the impact on neighbours, as well as the impact on highways and all other relevant planning considerations. So this is one of the primary elements that's been amended during the course of the application. The siting of the dwellings has been changed from what was originally proposed, as well as the scale of the dwellings slightly reducing. So originally the orientation and siting of these dwellings was at an angle to Wilkes Road. That's now been sort of more regularized, so it sort of forms the same sort of linear relationship that you have with the existing bungalows, number 42 and onwards. Members can see from the image that the footprint of these buildings is not out of keeping with the footprint of the bungalows along Wilkes Road and immediately adjacent to the site. But also these properties are 2 stories, so that the footprint's slightly smaller, but the accommodation is similar in sort of scale overall in terms of the square meterage that you'd get. So the form of development is generally considered acceptable in terms of the siting of these dwellings. In terms of looking at the actual design of the dwellings, mention has been made of the ridge height of these units. So these are 2-story dwellings as we would describe them. The main 2-story element is this the sort of gable feature that you've got on both of the units. The rest of the building is primarily chalet bungalow in design. So you have a front dormer window, you have accommodation and windows in the gable ends either side of the roof, and then the rear elevation is just a pitched roof with Velux windows in it. One of the key elements of this scheme as well is the fact that the dwellings are set down in the site. So there is a change in land levels at the moment on the site, and that fence that's 2 meters high that we saw in the photographs has a bit of a drop the other side, but there is proposed to be a drop in land levels, which is indicated by the dotted line on this plan, and we'll see this in the sections that are provided when we're looking at the individual dwellings. Overall, the scale of the development is not considered to be out of keeping with the area. As mentioned, this is sort of between more of the 2-story developments and then the bungalow developments. So it is a sort of a transition between those 2. So we don't consider that the scale of the development would be out of keeping with that area because it accords with almost both forms of development that you can find in the vicinity. Whilst there is some set down in the pavement from the pavement level, we don't consider that on its own would result in a harmful impact on the character and appearance of the area, that there's some dwellings that are set down, because they're going to be seen more in the wider context of the 2-story developments that you have in the vicinity of the site. So in terms of the detailed design, I'm just going to go through plots A and B. So plot A, which is the property that would be on the left-hand side as you look at it from Wilkes Road. So the materials that are proposed are white render, then with stained timber cladding and slate roof. Whilst there aren't any clear examples of the timber cladding in the vicinity of the site, as I mentioned earlier, the texture and colour of materials that are found in the vicinity do vary. And so therefore it's not considered that there is an overly harmful or obtrusive impact from having certain different materials on this matches some of the darker tiles that are found in the area. So it's not considered that the materials would be out of keeping significantly with those found in the area. So this is the rear elevation of that property. So you can see again the Velux windows here. That is to avoid overlooking into the private amenity space that would be created in the remaining garden of number 1 Fair Street. This is the side elevation. So this is the internal side elevation that would face towards the other dwelling that's being proposed. And then there's this elevation, which is facing towards that bank of trees and the alleyway that members saw with the photographs. And then this is the ground floor plan. So you can see the existing trees that are being retained as part of the development. And you can see that there is a central access point that's being proposed that serves both dwellings either side, with a gate present as well, with obviously an area for turning a vehicle as necessary to try and ensure that the highway code is followed in terms of vehicles exiting in a forward gear. And then this is the second floor plan. The plans do match for both units. There's more significance on the plan for plot B, which we'll go through now. So this is plot B. So this is the part of the development that is directly next to number 42 Wilkes Road. So you can see the outline of that property on the right-hand side of your screen. So you can see again the level difference that's created from the drop in height, as well as up to this thick black line, the 2-story boundary, the 2 meter boundary treatment that is present. If we then go through those plans, so again, you can see the change in levels. You can see where a retaining wall would be needed because of the change in levels that would occur from the rear elevation. So number 42 is now on the left-hand side of this image. And then this is the side elevation of the property, which would face towards 42 Wilkes Road, which we'll talk about in a second when we're looking at the floor plan. You can also see the parking area here, and then a retaining wall before you actually get down to the property. So you can see the land level change that's being proposed. And then here's the other side. So this is the elevation that faces into the site. So this is an isometric aerial image using Google Earth, just to show a bit about the relationship between the sites. So you can see that at the moment there is sort of some boundary screening that is present along the side elevation of the site, as well as having the fence in place. So one of the issues that we've looked at is the relationship between number 42 and the proposed property, because this is just the ground floor layout, again, sort of mirroring the relationship that you had on plot A, particularly looking at the second floor window that would be present here, which has a relationship with obviously this property at number 42. And obviously in terms of overlooking and privacy, that's one of the things that the report directly has looked into in a bit more detail. So the windows are primarily, due to the heights that we're looking at, looking towards the roof slope of number 42, and the angle is restricted in officer's view down to the ground floor openings that are present in the side elevation of number 42, obviously restricted by virtue of a combination of the 2 meter boundary fence and also some landscaping that's shown on the plan. As identified, the windows aren't habitable room windows, and 2 of them do have obscure glazing because they serve a bathroom and toilet. And therefore, because of the spacing and also the height relationship, it's not considered this window at first floor would be significantly harmful to the neighbour to warrant refusal of the application by virtue of overlooking. And the property, the actual layout doesn't impact on the most private windows and amenity space that you have in terms of at the rear of a dwelling that you would normally get in terms of the amenity space. And obviously the access down the alley is not usable amenity space in quite the same way. So it is considered that the relationship with number 42 is acceptable on the terms of the plans that we've got. In terms of the relationship with number 1 Fair Street, we've already mentioned about the fact that you've got Veluxes in the rear roof slopes to avoid overlooking. There is a window that is present in the rear of number 1 Fair Street at first floor level, which looks towards the rear area of plot A. However, that's also been considered in the report and assessed. And we've especially looked at the fact that the amenity space and private amenity space does wrap around the dwelling, because you have quite a significant 2 meter high fence all the way down adjacent to the alleyway. So they do have multiple private spaces for plot A. So we don't consider that the relationship created there is unacceptable. There is also a condition that's proposed to remove permitted development rights for both of these properties, to remove the ability to add further openings into the rear roof slope of either property, again to try and safeguard living conditions of neighbouring properties. So just to touch on previous history of the site. So for reference, an application was refused by the council in 2009, which reference has been made to, and this formed 2 dwellings, a garage block at the rear in this pattern. So you can see that the orientation is slightly different, it's slightly angled. The footprints of the buildings are slightly longer, but also the dwellings were 2-story for almost the whole of the expanse of the footprint, and that was considered to be too cramped in relation to neighbouring properties and into the area. So overall, the development is considered to be in accordance with the local plan policies. The dwellings that are created are above the nationally described space standards. The amenity space is considered to be appropriate. The development is proposing to retain the prominent trees on site, and there is a condition that's imposed to ensure that they are protected during construction. There is also an archaeology condition for a watching brief to be submitted and approved, so that an archaeologist would be viewing the development on site in case there are any finds that need to be recorded because of its positioning within Broadstairs. And there is a unilateral undertaking that is in place that secures a contribution towards the special protection area on the basis of the increased recreational pressure from the addition of one dwelling. So overall, it is put to members for the scheme to be approved on the grounds of with the safeguarding conditions attached as well. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ian. I move that the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
I'll second that, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. I have two speakers at present. Councillor Curry. Alan.
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a massive fan of garden developments, but looking at this application, I think the scale and style of this looks in keeping with the area. It does retain sort of garden space, and I think I will support this application. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Curry. Councillor Garner.
Yeah, hi. Thank you. Yeah, I as one of the local ward councillors, I called this in because I had a number of concerns. Actually, I differ with what Councillor Curry's just said. I feel actually the style of the building is totally out of character with the bungalows in the immediate vicinity of the new build, and it's certainly out of character with the certainly totally different to the house 1 Fair Street in which the garden is being built, a lovely old flint house which has been there obviously for a long time. So I am a little bit concerned about the style of these buildings and being overlooked and being out of character with the rest of the area. One thing, I'm familiar with the area. I was walking up there the other day, and that road actually is rather a dangerous road, and there have been, I know, a number of accidents up there on that corner, on that bend, and I don't think there's been enough consideration to making sure the access to these new buildings are safe. They're going to add to they're going to increase the risk of further accidents on the road. And like I say, it's already got a history of accidents there. So at the moment, I'm not in favour of this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Rattigan.
I have to agree with Councillor Curry. When I look at the development, it's a very large site, and even with the development on there, it still leaves a nice big area for the existing property there. The proposed properties seem a nice development as well, so I will be in favour.
Thank you, Councillor Owen.
Sorry, Chair. Writing something down.
Don't worry.
Yeah, I agree with Councillor Curry and Councillor Rattigan. I think this is different from the last application that we've looked at, and in relation to the size of the plot where these houses are going to be built, or if it's approved. I have no problem with a different kind of design to what's there. Wherever throughout the country you'll find different designs of houses, new houses coming in where which is different what the existing is. You know, do you want a 1940s design still? Don't know, but certainly not for me. I'm quite happy with this, and I'm happy to support the application, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Bayford, I'm glad to see you're back with us.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I think I generally agree. My first reaction was that 2 houses on the site seemed a lot, but on looking at the presentation, it does seem that they fit quite well. I think they're not unattractive, and a little bit of variety is no bad thing. I'm very, very pleased at the retention and protection of the primary trees on the area. So I feel also that I will be supporting this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bayford. I don't see any other speakers at the moment. So I can put this to you, members. Please, my screen seems to be working all okay. Thank you now. So I'm going to put this to you once again to vote for those in favour. You can say for, against, or abstain. Councillor Common-Cook.
For.
Councillor Orban.
For.
Councillor Bayford.
For.
Councillor Curry.
For.
Councillor Duckworth.
For.
Councillor Garner.
Against.
Councillor Rattigan.
For.
Councillor Rozeski.
For.
Thank you. Councillor Wright.
For.
And myself, that's I'm for. I believe that motion has been carried. I'm sure I'll be corrected if I'm wrong. Thank you, members. Thank you, Emily. That's been clarified. That concludes the public speaking for this meeting. I will call upon the clerk to read out the remaining planning applications. If a member wishes to reserve an application, will they please call out or put in the chat box that they wish to do so. Emily, over to you.
4A, Clovelly, Ellington Avenue, Margate. 4C, 334, Margate Road, Ramsgate.
Chairman, I'll call in 4C, please.
4C. Okay. Which is 4C. Go to my agenda. 4C, 4C, 4C.
.334 Margate Road, Chairman, if that'll help.
Yep. Sorry, it does. Sorry about that. Yep. The officer who's reporting on this.
Chair, if it might be worth going through the item that hasn't been reserved for public speaking, for debate, it might be worth calling on Emily to just call out the ones and just checking that can be approved in accordance with the recommendation.
Yeah, beg your pardon. Thank you, Ian. Yes, I called on Emily to just call out the one that hasn't been called in for debate.
So we just need a proposer and a seconder for 4A.
Could I have a proposer, please?
Yes,
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook, and a seconder, please. Could I have a
second, Chair? Councillor Albert.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I know I always go wrong there, but you all agree? I don't think we have to go through the list on that.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you, members. Right, back to Mr. Alban's concern. Is it you, Ian?
It is me, yes, Chair. I'll pick up and go through the presentation for members. Let me just get my screen up here. Okay, so the application site is outlined in red. So the proposal is for the change of use of the first floor and second floor of 334 Margate Road with a single story, but at first floor level rear extension, and it's a change of use of that property to an HMO for up to 5 unrelated individuals. So this is just a plan indicating where the proposed extension is going to go at the rear of 334. So this strip is for ground floor of commercial properties with residential of first and second floor. So 3-story properties here. So this is where we are. So you've got the Hare and Hounds on the corner here, Margate Road, car dealership opposite, and then you've got the commercial properties along the frontage of Margate Road. So it's the newsagent's property. Sorry, the property that's just here, but you can see the row of properties, and you can see this sort of uniform style of property at first and second floor level. So the access to the first floor is actually around the back at the moment. So at the moment, this is a maisonette. So this in the middle of the screen is 334. You then have next door, you have 332, which, as you can see in the center of the screen, have got a first floor rear extension. The proposed first floor rear extension on the application property would match the rear extension of the one that's next door. So we'll just have a little look at that in a second. But you can see how at the moment the access, as I mentioned, is at the rear of the property. So this is the existing rear elevation. So the application site is on the one on the left-hand side. And then here is with the first floor extension. So you can see the design mirrors the one to the other on next door's property. So the side elevation effectively builds on top of the single story element here, and then the same on the other elevation. So in terms of the impact on neighbours, if I just quickly go back to this image here. So this window is the neighbouring window, and it's a very similar relationship to that which has been approved with the window on the other side adjacent to the other first floor rear extension. So it goes past the rear extension, goes past this window, which is a habitable room window. However, it's considered that it doesn't go sufficiently higher above the height of that window to create an overbearing impact on the outlook from that particular window. You can see how the height of the actual property, the extension is lower and almost just above the height of the window itself. So moving through the layout that's proposed. So 334 is at the bottom of the screen there with 332 above. So at the moment you have the 2 accesses, one that goes to the maisonette above, and then one that serves the newsagent that goes out to the rear yard. So what's being added into the rear yard is some cycle parking that's being proposed to serve the new HMO. And then at first floor, at the moment, you have the lounge and kitchen area and the bathroom. So those are remaining the same, but with the rear extension, then adding a bedroom and an additional shower room. So one of the main considerations for an HMO, as members will be aware from last month and previous months, is obviously the standard of accommodation that's being created. And with this type of application, we get a comment from the council's private sector housing team, who obviously deal with HMO licensing, to ensure that those licensing requirements are also going to be accorded with. So you can see that the 2 bathrooms that are being provided for the 5 residents are on the first floor, and that's to ensure that you're according with the licensing requirements for an HMO. And then at the second floor, 3 bedrooms effectively become 4 bedrooms when subdivided out. So you can see that it's the 1 bedroom is made smaller here, and the bedroom 1 has been subdivided into 2. Again, those sizes accord with the licensing standards that are required for the HMO to be licensed by the housing team. So that's another element that has been looked at. So with an HMO, we talked about this last month. The main issues are about policy HO19, which is looking at the criteria for housing multiple occupation. What the report goes through is that in this instance, the criteria that's specifically cited that looks at whether or not there is I suppose, an intensification of this type of use in a particular area that results in an imbalance of the community and to create local disturbance. The criteria that's put in there when an assessment needs to be carried out is that within 20 properties, referred to as dwelling houses in this instance, in the criteria, when more than 5 properties in a row of 20 change to an HMO, it's something to consider, as well as when a certain percentage above within a radius of 50 meters is changed. It's something that needs to be looked at quite closely. In this instance, there are 2 other HMOs in this row of properties. So they are number 132, so the property next door that has that extension that's already built on it, and then a property further up, and I'll just go back to the location plan just to show members. There we go. So this is the property under the application. 332 is here, and then it's 340, which is just up here, which is also down as an HMO. So the report goes through the considerations on this point. The issue here is whether or not there is a demonstrable impact on the local community in terms of an imbalance. The policy was originally adapted to ensure that wholly suburban locations don't have undergo a bit of a transformation. Obviously, you then have a confluence of these sort of uses, more comings and goings that would then potentially create local disturbance and imbalance the mix of properties that you have in the vicinity. In this instance, it's the officer's view that we are in a more comings and goings location. We're on a primary and busy road. The rear access, which comes off Buxton Road, is used by all of the properties along this commercial these commercial units, both to access the upper floors, but also potentially to access the rear of the commercial properties. So there is, in our consideration, quite a lot of comings and goings that occur in the vicinity. So we don't consider that in this instance, the addition of an HMO would result in local disturbance over and above the comings and goings that go on at the moment in this particular vicinity. It's worth noting as well, obviously, in terms of this being an HMO rather than a maisonette with 3 bedrooms in it, that obviously it is in a highly sustainable location. Margate Road being served very well by a bus route. Obviously, you are directly above a lot of local services in terms of the convenience needs and those sorts of things. So we don't consider the lack of car parking that's provided for this dwelling, this unit, over and above the fact that there's a dwelling there at the moment, to cause alarm or a concern with regards to the HMO policy. So overall, it's considered that the proposal would be in accordance with the local plan, and as it would it wouldn't result, in our view, in an impact on local disturbance, and also we think the proposal would maintain a mixed and settled community. So it's recommended for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Ian. I move the officer's recommendation is adopted. Could the Vice Chair please second?
Yeah, I'll second that, Chair. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Coleman-Cook. Councillor Alban.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I called this in for discussion. I am extremely concerned, actually, Chairman. You know, there are a lot of comings and goings, so let's add a lot more to it. Just listening to what Mr. Livingston was saying. We've got a HMO at 332. We've got a HMO at 340A. And now they want us. Now there's another this application for another housing multiple occupation. It's clearly against policy HO19 in that we have got 3. This would create 3 within 50 metres, and that is against policy HO19. I cannot support this application, Chair, and I'm hoping that my fellow councillors will support me in this. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your thoughts there. Councillor Duckworth.
Yeah, I'm sort of tending to agree with Councillor Alban, but what might help me is if you could give me some information about the plans for refuse storage.
Can you do that, Ian?
Sorry, my microphone's off. If you give me a second, I will just find the information required. I've just got to find the answer to that.
No problem.
So I'm just looking through the application details now, just to try and ascertain exactly the position of the refuse storage. What I would say is that obviously what's been proposed is that there is a cycle storage that's been provided in the rear yard, and therefore it certainly seems feasible that area can be used for refuse storage as well. So refuse storage would then be at the back of the property in that rear yard rather than obviously at the front. I'm just going to just see if there's any more details that I can provide about what's been submitted in terms of what's been stated on the application form. So bear with me just whilst I load this up and see what's been cited. Right, that says that. There we go. Yes, it is entirely my fault, members. Bear with me. I will just present my screen to you. There we go. So just to point out, so at the rear of the property, where you have the outbuilding at the moment and the gates, you have the area for bin storage here. So on the right-hand side of the screen, so it is at the rear, right at the rear of the property as it stands at the moment. And again, this is where you have an existing property, obviously an existing maisonette that also has, needs the same sort of bin storage provided, which obviously could have, 3 to 4 people in it at the moment. So that's the location of the refuse store on that.
Okay, thank you, Ian. Councillor Garner.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I have to say I agree with Councillor Alban. I share his concerns about the number of HMOs within this area, and as he says, it does exceed the threshold of HO 19. And I also note there are already a significant number of HMOs within the close vicinity of these HMOs in this road, just up the road in on the Wimpy estate. Well, there are quite a significant number already. So I share his concerns, and I'm open to be persuaded otherwise.
Thank you. Councillor Raskin.
I'm again with my other councillors. I think there's already enough HMOs in that area, and I won't be supporting that.
Thank you, Councillor Mayford.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, unfortunately, I do feel that HMOs serve a very useful purpose, but not the fact that there are so many in close vicinity. There are more comings and goings, more activity, and I think they need to be spaced out more. So I'm afraid I don't think I can support this application. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Bay. Thank you, Councillor Bay. For Councillor Wright.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also agree that having seen what how the Wimpy estate was overrun, I can see this happening all over again. So I won't be supporting this application either.
Thank you. I can't see any other people wish to speak. So again, I'm going to put this to you, members. with your feelings obviously quite strong there on some points. So once again, I'm going through the names. If you're for, against, or you abstain. Councillor Coleman-Cook.
Against.
Councillor Orban.
Against.
Councillor Bayford.
Against.
Councillor Curry.
Against.
Councillor Duckworth.
Against.
Councillor Garner.
Against.
Councillor Rastigan.
Against.
Councillor Roseski.
Abstain.
Councillor Wright.
Against.
And I'm against it as well. I think I know the answer there, but I'll have that confirmed by Emily. And if I'm correct, I'm going to have to come back to Ian.
Thank you, Chair. So I think it's pretty straightforward.
Motion lost.
Yes, so I think it's pretty straightforward in terms of the concerns of members, specifically related to the policy in question. So may I sort of offer a potential motion for a member to propose, which would be that the proposed development would result in a concentration of HMO uses in the local area, detrimental to the amenity and character of the neighbourhood, contrary to policy HO19 of the Thanet Local Plan 2020.
I'll propose that, Chairman.
And I'll second.
Thank you, Councillor Orban. I believe that was Councillor Garner that second.
It was. Thank you.
Councillor Garner. Right. You've heard the motion. If members wish Ian to read it out again, I'm not sure if you do. I think it was straightforward. No. Right. I will go through your names again regarding the motion that's been put forward, proposed and seconded. Councillor Coleman-Cook.
For.
Councillor Orban.
For.
Councillor Bayford.
For.
Councillor Curry.
For.
Councillor Duckworth.
For.
Councillor Garner.
For.
Councillor Rattigan.
For.
Councillor Roseski.
Abstain.
Councillor Wright.
For.
And I'm for as well. So that motion has been carried. Thank you, members. That does conclude the Planning Committee meeting this afternoon, which I thank you for. A couple of points, if I may, before we disappear. I'm sure you've seen we've had the email for the next planning meeting, which will be on 2 weeks today, the 30th of the 9th. Which I believe is going to be